So today I'm going to be talking about Alexander Hamilton's famous or infamous affair with Mariah Reynolds. This was the United States' first sex scandal, so quite interesting. So let's start. This all happened in the summer of 1791, and it involved Mariah Reynolds, who was this 23-year-old blonde girl, and obviously Alexander Hamilton, Secretary of the Treasury, who was 34. And well, yeah, Reynolds, she approached Hamilton at his residence in Philadelphia and asked for help. She claimed that her husband, who had abused her, James Reynolds, he had they abandoned her and she was all alone and she needed help to get back to New York City where she could maybe stay with some friends. Now, Hamilton wrote later on that he really wanted to help her because Hamilton, he was a nice guy. Um, but he couldn't write at that moment because, as like what happened, Elizabeth Hamilton, his wife, she was in the dining hall, like she was in the same house, so he couldn't really help her. So he said, "Okay, fine, let's meet again." So he did, and even brought with him some money. Well, Mariah, she he invited into her home and invited him to the bedroom. And well, stuff happened there, and well, this began an affair. When the affair began, coincidentally, Elizabeth Hamilton and the children, who I think by this point she was pregnant with their fifth child, and had four children. They were in Albany with I think it's also with Angelica Church, Elias's sister. They were like visiting their father in Albany, General Philip Schuyler, who used to be a senator, but not anymore, I think. And well, this affair kept going on. Liza was in Albany, so Hamilton pretty much had free reign, and he kept on seeing her all throughout the summer, and even in the fall of 1791. James Reynolds eventually found out of the affair. Now, there's a debate as to whether Mariah Reynolds was involved in the affair, in the extortion of Hamilton, or if she actually really needed help and, well, kind of fell for Hamilton, but then became actively extorting him. And, well, James Reynolds, so this guy, Treasury Secretary, he is having sex with my wife, and he is married, and he's an important government official, so I could actually make some money out of this. Well, on December 15, 1791, Hamilton was just chilling and received a letter from Mariah Reynolds, basically saying, "Oh my god, like help me, help me, help me." 2 days later, on December 17th, Hamilton received another letter, but not from Mariah Reynolds, no, from James Reynolds. He said, "Well, you are the cause of any unhappiness in my house. You broke our marriage. You have to pay." That's it. He didn't say it like that. He proposed payment at the end. Which, by the way, both Mariah Reynolds and James Reynolds had terrible spelling. I've read the letters. They're terrible. And you can kind of get what's going on, like what they're saying. But still, I know they're not that well educated, but the spelling was horrible. Well, James Reynolds said, "Fine, okay, you broke our marriage, but I'm a nice guy. You want to continue having sex with my wife? Okay, you can continue seeing her, but you have to pay up." That's actually what he said. And well, the way it would go was at first Mariah would write to Hamilton and said, "Hey, can you come over?" And Hamilton, as a gentleman he was, and as a womanizer he was, he would go on to visit Mariah and, well, have sex with her, essentially. A few days later, Hamilton would just receive a letter from James Reynolds demanding payment. There was an initial request for payment of $1,000, which Hamilton paid. And in total, out of the whole affair, he paid around $1,300. Well, initial payment was $1,000, but then kept on, instead of $1,000, he asked for small payments. Which, by the way, Hamilton, when he is had to meet with James Reynolds to give him like the payments, he said, "Okay, fine, come to my office. They come to the Treasury building." Okay, this right now doesn't seem like a big deal because no one knew who James Reynolds was, but later on, people who could when this thing came to light, people knew that this guy James Reynolds had been visiting Hamilton constantly at the Treasury building, and Hamilton had been giving him money. So that calls for speculation. Anyway, um, in all the letters, by the way, when James Reynolds sent asking for money, he never said Hamilton is having sex with Maria Reynolds. He never said that. So that's like kind of dodgy, but hey. Well, things were so right so far. Hamilton was kind of fed up, but really couldn't stop making the payments. This was pure blackmail, because then James Reynolds would tell his wife, and then possibly tell the country, and he would be screwed. But he kept on paying, and things were well. However, in November 1792, so keep in mind the whole affair started in summer 1791. He started paying in December 1791, and this was still going on by November 1792. So, well, James Reynolds, he was in prison for forgery and forwarding. He was a really dodgy guy. And asked Hamilton for help, like, "Hey, can you help release me?" And Hamilton's like, "Dude, enough. I'm not going to help you." So James Reynolds became, he said, "Okay, it's like that. Okay, you're going to pay for this." So what he did was, he told Hamilton's rivals from the Democratic Republican Party. These are not, I know in the popular musical Hamilton, it appears as if Jefferson, Aaron Burr, and James Madison found out the affair first. No. Burr found out the affair later on. Thomas Jefferson found out about the affair because of James Monroe, and then Thomas Jefferson probably told James Madison. But it wasn't either of those three men who actually confronted Hamilton about the affair. Well, Reynolds told Monroe, Muhlenberg, and James Monroe, future president, Frederick Muhlenberg, and Abraham Venable about the affair. And well, they visited James and Maria and gathered letters and proved that Hamilton was actually doing this. Now, they heard everything, and Reynolds kind of implicated Hamilton in this, in this speculation scheme. And well, Monroe and the other two guys said, "Okay, we have to confront this because, well, this is kind of treason, because it's a Treasury Secretary. This guy has a ton of power. He shouldn't be doing this." So, at one point, Hamilton, he was kind of more powerful than the Secretary of State. Well, anyway, in December 1792, Hamilton and Muhlenberg, they confronted Monroe and Muhlenberg confronted Hamilton about the whole thing. They did not know about Hamilton's payments. They just knew about the affair, and they just knew this guy had been constantly visiting Hamilton, and that some extortion was going on. Well, Hamilton said, "You guys, fine, okay, I'm not gonna deny it. Here's the affair. I had an affair, I had sex with Maria Reynolds, I cheated on my wife, yes, fine. However, I am not involved in anything that's not adultery. I am only guilty of adultery. Yes, I cheated on my wife. That's the only thing I did." And he even had proof. He even yes, he sent the checks out of the Treasury Secretary, but it was only his money. It wasn't the government's money. So that's all that happened. Well, Monroe and Muhlenberg said, "Fine. We're not gonna tell the public because this isn't that big a deal, and we're just gonna let things stay where they are." And Hamilton was like, "Great, I escaped without really a scratch. Yes, public humiliation, not public, but humiliation, but that's pretty much it, right?" Well, Monroe, he sent Maria's letters to Thomas Jefferson, who, by the way, hated Hamilton's guts. So the worst thing he could have done for Hamilton. But of course, James Monroe, he didn't care about Hamilton, so... Well, Then John Beckley from the House of Representatives, he got his hands on the Mariah Reynolds letters and copied them. Obviously not photocopied them, like copied them by hand. And yeah, and well, the letters got out, and it was horrible. Then things didn't really help when in 1796, Hamilton's like, oh, look at how horrible Jefferson is. Look at his life. It sucks. So Jefferson's like, okay, is that how it is? Me and Hamilton had a way of making enemies out of literally everyone he came across. Anyway, by this point, by the way, I've said by the way a lot. Well, by this point, Hamilton was no longer Treasury Secretary. I think he quit at the end of 1795 because of personal reasons. Because after the affair, ended when Hamilton stopped making the payments, but it wasn't public knowledge yet. He started becoming a more dutiful husband. He started paying more attention to Eliza. And yeah, he just ended up quitting his Treasury Secretary to spend more time with his family. Well, James Callender said, who was kind of great friends with Jefferson at the time, James Callender said, okay, look at this proof that Hamilton is involved in the speculation scheme. He's an evil guy, and he had a lot of power back then, so he is very corrupt. Now, Hamilton had two options. He could just not address it. And I had three options. He could not address it, deny everything, or admit to the affair. He couldn't really be branded. He couldn't really not do anything because he would be branded as corrupt, and his honor couldn't have that. He couldn't really deny everything because that's simply not true. If he went to the public and said none of this is true, well, James Monroe and Thomas Jefferson and a lot of people who actually knew about this could say, oh my god, he said he's denying everything, but we know that he had an affair with Mariah Reynolds, so if he's lying about that, he's probably lying about the other things too. So Hamilton went with the third option, just accepting the affair. And because he is Alexander Hamilton, he did it in the most spectacular way possible. He just published the observations on certain documents, also known as the Reynolds pamphlet. Although it was never, the official name is not the Reynolds pamphlet. It's observations on certain documents, which makes sense because it's his own observations and his own point of view on the letters published by Mariah Reynolds and James Reynolds. This pamphlet did include some of the letters, like Hamilton's proofs. Like, look, yes, I had an affair. That's all. So it was his way of saying, I've admitted to this, and I have nothing to hide. Like, this is extremely humiliating, and it's going to destroy my marriage, but I have nothing else to hide. Because why would I confess to this if this is going to screw up my life? Well, he even said how during the whole affair, well, Eliza, she was pregnant, like I said, and she had 4 children with her. And Eliza would be like, well, I can't wait to see you. And Hamilton would reply saying, oh, for your own safety and for the children and for my unborn child, why don't you stay in Albany a bit longer? And Eliza's like, oh my god, such a husband, like, he loves me, he takes care of me, he wants me to be safe. But in reality, Hamilton just didn't want Eliza to find out about the affair. Well, it was extreme. You can understand, it's extremely humiliating for Eliza. Well, he also said how, he just gave even more examples of this extortion. On May 2nd, 1792, so like 4 years earlier, James Reynolds had told Hamilton, yeah, you can't see Mariah anymore. Which did 2 things. Get Hamilton to think, oh my god, I need to see her because he told me he can't see her. So, and also made Mariah Reynolds come running to Hamilton, probably because she was involved in this extortion, and say, please, you need to help me. You can't stop. Well, he kept on seeing her, and then a week later, as usual, Hamilton received a letter from James Reynolds saying, hey, I forbid you from seeing my wife, and yet she saw you a week before. So, pay up. And he paid the $300. So, like, remember how I said $1,300? The 1,000 from before, and then these 300. Well, eventually, because of the pamphlet, the rumors of his involvement in a speculation scheme really disappeared and nothing really came of it. But he didn't seek higher political office, so he didn't want to be president anymore because of the public humiliation. Possibly he was just tired of it. He just wanted to spend time with his wife because, well, the wife, he was lucky she didn't divorce him. But you know who got divorced? Maria Reynolds. Just a few months before the publishing of the pamphlet in 1797. Well, she got divorced. She sued James Reynolds for divorce. And who gets to be her lucky lawyer? Aaron Burr. I know, kind of funny. But, if Burr didn't know by then, he definitely knew because he was her divorce lawyer. He needed to know. It's kind of funny that it was Aaron Burr who, was Mariah Reynolds' lawyer. If you don't know, well, you probably do, but if you don't know, Aaron Burr was the guy who, in a duel on July 11th, 1804, ended up killing Hamilton. They were political rivals all their lives, so... Well, not all their lives, in 1775. But I'll probably do another video on Hamilton. Even, like I said before I got on the tangent of the divorce, Eliza, she was extremely humiliated, but she kept on, being with Hamilton. She gave him another chance. And, Hamilton was obviously mad, especially about, he challenged Monroe, because, dude, this thing got out, why? So, he challenged Monroe to a duel, and, well, nothing even happened, but, yeah. And then Eliza, in 1831, just before Monroe died, she confronted Monroe, not confronted, but they met, and she treated him really, really poorly. Just, defending Hamilton on his behalf because, well, he was kind of dead, so he couldn't really defend himself, but yeah. And that is pretty much it. That is the whole Maria Reynolds affair. It's really the first sex scandal of United States history. It didn't involve a really prominent politician. And Hamilton right now, apart from the musical, he is really known for his work on, the duel, obviously. The affair is quite well known, and maybe his work in the Constitutional Convention and establishing the Coast Guard, New York Post, Bank of New York, Bank of the United States. He did a lot of stuff. First Treasury Secretary. And that's pretty much it. I don't have anything else to say, so I'm going to stop there. Thank you for watching, and I hope you liked it. Bye!